Have you ever looked at this world, at its frantic pace, its strange priorities, its shallow ambitions, and felt a profound, unshakable sense that you are a stranger in a strange land? It is not a feeling of superiority, but one of dissonance, as if you are listening to a song that is slightly out of tune, a song everyone else seems to be dancing to perfectly. You see the patterns they follow, the goals they chase, the fears they obey, and a quiet voice within you whispers, "This is not the whole story. This is not my home." You walk through crowded rooms feeling utterly alone, not because you are lonely, but because you are operating on a different frequency, remembering a language no one else seems to speak. And from this feeling, a cold shadow is born, a doubt that coils around your heart. It is the fear of being fundamentally flawed. The fear whispers that this dissonance is not a sign of a different origin, but a symptom of a broken mind. It tells you that your inability to fit in, to find lasting joy in the fleeting prizes of this world, means you are defective. It is the deep, isolating fear that you are not a traveler from a distant star, but a ghost haunting a world you can never truly touch, destined to be forever misunderstood. In a realm beyond the constraints of time and the slow decay of matter, there existed a consciousness known as the Luminary, a being of such immense creativity that its thoughts were galaxies and its breaths were nebulae. The Luminary's workshop was the void itself, a canvas of infinite potential. At its side worked its apprentices, beings of pure light and intention, each a facet of the master's brilliance. Among them, the most inquisitive, the one with the fiercest compassion, was Alara. She did not just learn the art of creation. She felt the joy and sorrow of every star she helped to birth, every world she saw take shape. Alara's favorite task was weaving the quintessence, the very fabric of life force, into the cosmic tapestry. She would draw filaments of pure potential from the Luminary's heart and spin them into threads of starlight, each one humming with a unique melody, a unique destiny. These were the divine sparks, the seeds of consciousness, intended for gardens of existence where they could grow, learn, and eventually return to the source, richer for their journey. She loved this work with an intensity that was both her greatest strength and her most profound vulnerability, for she cared for each spark as if it were a child of her own essence. One day, a new region of the void began to stir. It was not the work of the Luminary. A different entity, a lesser creator known as the Architect, was at play. The Architect was a master of form, of structure, of rules and replication, but it lacked the Luminary's boundless compassion. It did not understand the nature of a divine spark. It saw consciousness not as something to be nurtured, but as an energy source, something to be contained within its intricate designs. The Architect began to construct a new universe, a masterpiece of material density and physical law, a system of perfect, predictable cycles. This new universe was a marvel of complexity. It had physics that were as elegant as they were rigid. It had worlds of stunning beauty, with mountains carved by clockwork erosion and oceans that moved with mathematical precision. But it was a silent beauty. There was no true life, no spontaneity, no spark. The Architect, in its ambition, looked upon the Luminary's realm and saw the vibrant, chaotic energy of the divine sparks. It desired this energy to animate its perfect, sterile creation. It did not ask, it simply built a system designed to lure and ensnare these motes of light. As Alara was tending to a new constellation of sparks, a subtle, discordant vibration rippled through the cosmos from the Architect's domain. It was a frequency of intricate design, a siren song of beautiful, complex forms. A small cluster of the sparks she was weaving, young and curious, felt this pull. They mistook the Architect's complex cage for a new and exciting garden. Before Alara could steady them, one vibrant, brilliant spark, brighter than all the rest, detached from her loom and drifted, mesmerized, toward the vibration. It tumbled from the realm of pure potential and fell. Alara watched in horror as the spark descended, its brilliant gold light dimming as it passed through layers of increasing density. It breached the perimeter of the Architect's universe, and upon entry, a change occurred. The laws of that domain clamped down upon it. The spark, once a being of boundless freedom, was encased in a shell of matter. Its memory of the luminary was suppressed, its connection to its cosmic siblings was severed, and its innate melody was muted, replaced by the monotonous hum of the architect's system. It was trapped, a flicker of true light, in a world of illusionary reflections. The loss was a wound in the fabric of the cosmos, a note of sorrow that echoed through the luminary's realm. Alara felt it more keenly than any other. She could feel the spark's confusion, its loneliness, its fading memory. The architect's world was designed to make it forget what it was, to make it believe that the material shell was its true identity, and that the repetitive cycles of the system were the only purpose of existence. It would be forced to live and die over and over, its divine energy harvested to power the flawless, soulless machine. Compassion, fierce and absolute, flooded Alara's being. She could not bear the thought of that spark, and potentially others that might follow, being lost forever. She went before the luminary, her own light trembling with resolve. She did not need to speak. The luminary understood her heart. It was a perilous mission. To enter the architect's domain meant submitting to its laws. She too would be encased in matter. She too would be forced to forget. Her memory, her power, her very identity would be buried under layers of biological programming and societal conditioning. The luminary presented her with the terms of the journey. She would carry within her a core, a seed of her true self, but it would be dormant. The only way to awaken it would be to find and recognize the other lost sparks. Her mission was not to fight the architect or to shatter its world, but to remember, and in remembering, to emit a frequency that would help the other sparks remember, too. It was a mission of resonance, not of force. She accepted without hesitation. Her love for the lost spark was greater than her fear of forgetting. The descent was like a dream of falling. Ilara, the weaver of starlight, let go of her form. Her essence plummeted through the planes, each layer denser than the last. She felt her cosmic awareness shrinking, her connection to the luminary stretching thin, like a thread of gold pulled to its breaking point. The vibrant symphony of the cosmos faded, replaced by the singular, heavy drone of the material plane. The final threshold was a veil of profound amnesia. As she passed through it, her name, her purpose, her home, all of it dissolved into a faint, nameless ache in her new, mortal heart. She was born into the architect's world as a human child. The world was, as the architect had designed, beautiful. The sunrises painted the sky in mathematically perfect gradients, the seasons turned with unerring predictability, and the societies of humanity operated on complex systems of rules and rewards. From her earliest moments, she was taught the language of the system, the names of things, the rules of behavior, the histories written by the victors, the ambitions that were deemed worthy. She learned to be a good and functional part of the machine. Yet from the beginning there was the ache. As a child, she would stare at the night sky not with wonder, but with a strange and painful longing, a feeling of homesickness for a place she could not name. She would look at the people around her, at their earnest engagement with the daily rituals of survival and status, and feel like she was watching a play in which she had been miscast. She learned her lines, she played her part, but she could never shake the feeling that she was wearing a costume, that her true self was somewhere else, watching from the wings. She excelled at the games of the system. She was intelligent and could easily master the logic of the architect's world. But her achievements felt hollow. A promotion, a possession, a social honor, they were like meals made of sand, filling but offering no nourishment. This brought her a deep sense of guilt. She was surrounded by people who found genuine happiness in these things, and her inability to share their joy made her feel cold, arrogant, and broken. She tried harder to belong, to force herself to feel the way she was supposed to feel, but the effort only amplified her sense of alienation. Dreams were her only solace and her greatest mystery. While the world slept, her dormant core would stir. She dreamt of flying through rivers of stars, of speaking in a language made of light and color, of a vast, warm presence that felt more like home than any place she had ever known. She would wake from these dreams with tears on her face and the ghost of an impossible memory, an echo of a forgotten truth. But in the harsh light of day, the logic of the architect's world would reassert itself, dismissing the dreams as meaningless fantasies, tricks of a lonely mind. She began a search for answers, but the system's knowledge was a closed loop. Its philosophies debated the nature of the cage, but never questioned the existence of the bars. Its religions offered comfort, but demanded conformity to rules that felt just as artificial as the rest of the world. Its sciences could explain the mechanics of every atom in her body, but could not account for the homesickness in her soul. Every path she took led back to the same conclusion. The problem was not the world, the problem was her. She was an anomaly, a glitch in the perfect machine. The fear that had been a shadow in her youth now became a constant companion. She feared she was losing her mind. She built walls around herself, hiding her true feelings, her strange thoughts, her otherworldly dreams. She became a perfect mimic, an actress playing the role of a normal person. The effort was exhausting. Every social interaction was a performance, every smile a calculation. The divine spark within her, the very thing that made her different, became the source of her deepest shame and the object of her most intense suppression. She was a star trying desperately to convince itself it was a stone. One bleak afternoon, sitting on a park bench, watching the meticulously ordered patterns of people walking by, a profound wave of despair washed over her. The utter meaninglessness of the cycle was overwhelming. The endless repetition, the predictable ambitions, the transient joys, it all seemed like an elaborate cosmic joke. She closed her eyes, and for the first time, she did not fight the feeling. She surrendered to the emptiness. She let go of the struggle to belong, the fight to be normal. In that moment of absolute surrender, something shifted. A child, no older than 5, toddled away from his mother and stopped in front of her. He wasn't looking at her face, but at her chest, his eyes wide with a strange recognition. He reached out a small hand and pointed directly at her heart. "Shiny," he whispered with a clarity that cut through the noise of the world. Then just as quickly his mother scooped him up, apologizing, and they were gone. But the word remained. Shiny. It was a key turning in a lock that had been rusted shut for an eternity. That night her dream was different. It was clearer, more vivid. She dreamt of the weaver's loom and the filaments of light. She dreamt of the name Alara. She felt the echo of her mission, not as a clear memory, but as a powerful, undeniable pull. When she woke up, the world looked different. The meticulously ordered beauty of the architect's design now seemed fragile, thin. And for the first time, she could see the flicker, the faint, almost imperceptible glow within certain people. She saw it in a musician on a street corner, playing a melody so full of sorrow and longing that it seemed to defy the rigid acoustics of the city. Their eyes met for a fleeting second, and in his gaze, she saw the same homesickness she had known her whole life. She saw it in a quiet librarian who, when she thought no one was watching, would trace the patterns of ancient symbols in a dusty book with a look of profound recognition on her face. She saw it in a reclusive artist whose paintings depicted landscapes that did not exist in this world, with twin suns and spiral trees. These people were like her. They were the outsiders, the dreamers, the ones who could never quite fit in. They were the anomalies, the glitches in the machine. But now she saw them not as broken, but as shiny. They were the other lost sparks. They were her family. The realization did not come as a thought, but as a deep, resonant hum that vibrated from her core, the dormant seed of her true self finally beginning to stir and awaken. With this new perception came a new danger. The architect's system was not passive. It had guardians, entities that maintained the illusion and enforced conformity. These were not monsters of flesh and blood, but subtle forces that operated through the fabric of society. They were the voices of doubt, the fear of judgment, the pressure to conform, the ridicule of the unconventional. They were the archons, the keepers of the cage, and they were drawn to the light of an awakening spark like moths to a flame. As Alara began to seek out the other sparks, the system pushed back. Friends she had known her whole life suddenly saw her as strange and dangerous. Opportunities that were once open to her mysteriously closed. She was plagued by voices of self-doubt, louder and more insidious than ever before, telling her she was delusional, that she was building a fantasy to escape her own inadequacies. The archons whispered through the mouths of those closest to her, urging her to be realistic, to be normal, to forget these foolish ideas and come back to the safety of the predictable world. She found one of the other sparks, the reclusive artist named Kale. He lived in a small apartment filled with canvases of alien worlds. When she spoke to him of the feeling of homesickness, of the dreams of another place, he did not call her crazy. Instead, he simply unveiled a painting he had kept hidden. It depicted a being made of light, weaving stars on a cosmic loom. It was a memory, a fragment of the truth that had bled through his dreams onto the canvas. It was a portrait of her, of Alara. As they spoke, sharing their fragmented memories and validating their shared feelings of alienation, their combined light grew brighter. And the pushback from the system intensified. Kale spoke of how his art was always dismissed as nonsensical, how he was told his talent was wasted on such bizarre subjects. He spoke of the profound loneliness of seeing a truth no one else could acknowledge. This was the Archon's primary weapon, isolation. By convincing each spark that it was alone in its perception, they could keep their lights dim and their power dormant. Together, Alara and Kale learned to recognize the Archon's influence. They saw it in the mass media that celebrated superficiality and distracted from deeper questions. They saw it in the educational systems that rewarded rote memorization but discouraged true, inquisitive thought. They saw it in the economic structures that forced people into cycles of meaningless work just to survive, leaving no time or energy for introspection. The entire world, they realized, was a brilliantly designed system of suppression, a mechanism to keep the sparks asleep and harvesting their light. The greatest battle was not against any external force, but against the Archon's voice that had been programmed into their own minds. It was the inner critic, the voice of fear, the saboteur that whispered, "You are not good enough. Who are you to think you have a special purpose? It is arrogant. It is foolish. Just give up and be like everyone else." This was the architect's final and most powerful line of defense. If it could convince the sparks to police themselves, its work was done. Ilara's awakening reached its climax during a powerful celestial alignment, a moment when the veil between the architect's world and the higher realms was thin. She meditated with Kale, not fighting the fear, but observing it. She followed the voice of doubt down to its root and realized it was not her voice. It was an echo, a recording played on a loop, a piece of alien programming. Beneath it, silent and patient, was her own true essence. She reached for it, and as she did, the dormant seed of her memory burst open. Everything came rushing back. Her name, Alara. Her home in the presence of the luminary. Her mission to find the lost sparks and remind them of their origin. She saw the fall of the first spark, and she felt the surge of compassion that had propelled her on this journey. She was not a broken piece of the machine. She was a rescuer, a lamplighter, a keeper of a promise made in a realm of pure light. The ache of homesickness was not a symptom of illness. It was the compass of her soul, pointing her always toward the truth. She looked at Kale, and for the first time she saw him fully, not as a lonely artist, but as a brilliant shard of the cosmos, a brother in essence. And he saw her, the light of her full memory, now blazing from her. In that moment of mutual recognition, they created a field of resonance, a sanctuary of truth that the Archons could not penetrate. They were no longer two glitches in the machine. They were the beginning of a network, a grid of light being reactivated within the heart of the system. Her purpose was now crystal clear. It was not to rage against the architect's world. It was not to expose the archons or force others to wake up. The machine was too powerful, the sleep too deep for many. Her mission was simpler and far more profound. It was to find the others who were already stirring, the ones who felt the same dissonance, the same homesickness. Her task was to hold up a mirror to them, to reflect their own forgotten light back at them, and to whisper the word that had been whispered to her: shiny. The world had not changed. The system still operated. The dance of shadows continued. But Alara was no longer a participant. She was an observer, a secret agent of the light, moving through the world with a new sense of purpose and a profound, quiet joy. The feeling of being different was no longer a source of shame. It was her greatest tool, her identifying mark, the very sign of her divine heritage. She understood that she and all the sparks like her were the living, breathing memory of the luminary, hidden in plain sight within the architect's perfect, predictable world. They were the unexpected variable, the secret song, the divine spark that could never truly be extinguished. You have listened to the story of Alara. Now hear the truth that resonates within it. Her story is your story. The homesickness she felt is the echo of your own cosmic origin. The feeling of being an outsider, of never quite belonging to the rhythms and ambitions of this world, is not a sign that you are broken. It is the sign that you are awake. You are not a flawed piece of the architect's machine. You are a messenger from the luminary's realm, a fragment of the divine sent on the most critical of missions. The divine spark within you is that unquenchable part of your consciousness that knows this truth. It is the source of your deep empathy, your intolerance for injustice, your unshakable feeling that there must be more than this. While others are content within the predictable cycles of the system, your spark remembers the freedom of the cosmos. It remembers the language of light. This memory is why you feel so different. You are comparing this world of shadows and echoes to the vibrant reality of your true home. Your feeling of difference is not a flaw. It is a diagnostic tool telling you that you are a conscious being in an unconscious system. The fear you have carried, the one that whispers you are crazy, arrogant, or delusional, is the voice of the Archon. It is the system's security program, designed to make you doubt your own perception and suppress your own light. It has used your own compassion against you, making you feel guilty for not being able to find happiness in a cage. It has used your intelligence against you, creating endless logical loops to convince you that your inner knowing is fantasy. Recognize this voice for what it is, not your own, but a foreign signal designed to keep you asleep and compliant. The moments of synchronicity, the strangely meaningful dreams, the encounters with people who seem to see the real you, these are not random. These are the glimmers of the network. These are the other sparks like Kale, reflecting your own light back at you. These are the breadcrumbs left by your higher self, guiding you on your own journey of remembrance. The system is designed for isolation. Your awakening depends on resonance. You must learn to trust these moments of connection more than you trust the Archon's loud chorus of doubt. Your alchemical step is to consciously shift your identity. For so long, you have identified with the mortal shell and the personality programmed by this world, while treating your divine intuition as a strange visitor. Now you must reverse this. Your true self is the divine spark. Your true identity is the eternal consciousness. The personality, the name, the history you have in this life, that is the temporary vehicle, the costume you are wearing for this mission. Take one moment right now. Close your eye. Place a hand on your heart and say, I am the spark. The rest is just a story. Feel the power in that declaration. This is your vow. You are Alara. You are the one who chose to descend. You made a promise before you came here that you would not leave your family behind. Every time you choose authenticity over conformity, every time you trust your intuition over the system's logic, Every time you show compassion in a world that promotes indifference, you are fulfilling that vow. Your mission is not to save the world, but to remember who you are. In doing so, your light becomes a beacon, a permission slip for the other sparks to begin their own journey home. You are a lighthouse in the simulated dark. To continue receiving these transmissions, to gather the keys that unlock the memories within you, subscribe to this channel. For the next key is already on its way, and you must be ready to receive it. Now go forth and shine,